Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Shalom AZ Ministries, House of New Beginnings. If you're joining us for the first time, we'd love to connect. Just drop a note in the chat and tell us where you're watching from. When we gather together each day and each week, our heart's desire is to truly encounter the presence of the King of the universe, not simply for our own emotional experience or to check off some kind of religious to-do list. Our desire is to meet with Him and to be transformed into the likeness of His character in ever-increasing measure. We want to be like Him and to be transformed so that we can be transformative in the places where He has planted us, that we would be water bottles in the desert, overflowing with the life and refreshing newness that He is pouring into us. Today, as we gather in Yeshua's name, let's remember He's here with us. He sees you, He knows you, and He's working in your life to shape you into His likeness so you can radiate His love wherever you are. In addition to joining us for Daily Manna each day at 10 a.m., we hope you're able to join us for Shabbat service on Saturday at 10:30 Arizona time. Our Torah portion this week is Genesis 41, verse 1 through Genesis 44, verse 17. Our Haftarah portion this week is 1 Kings 3, verse 15 through 1 Kings 4, verse 1. Our New Covenant reading is Romans 10, verses 1 through 13. Please download our Shalom AZ app on your phone or streaming device. It's the easiest way to watch services, access devotionals, and share teachings with friends. Just search Shalom AZ in your app store. We want to say thank you to everyone who gives so faithfully. Your generosity is an act of worship to the Lord, and it makes it possible for us to share Yeshua and the richness of His Word with our community and beyond. We couldn't do this without you. As you give, you're not only meeting needs, you're partnering with the Lord to bring life and transformation to countless hearts. We are grateful that as you give to Him, you are entrusting Shalom AZ Ministries to be the faithful stewards of your worship and giving. The easiest way to give is through our app or online at shalomaz.com/give. You can also mail a check to our P.O. Box. As we dive into the Word today, we want to remind you that each daily manna teaching comes with a companion devotional guide. This guide is designed to help you go deeper beyond the live stream, whether in your own personal devotion time or as a resource to help you in ministering to others. You can use it in so many ways, for daily reflection and journaling, as a family devotional around the dinner table, or even to start a simple Bible study during your lunch break with coworkers you're ministering to. No matter how you use it, these devotionals are meant to help you not just hear the Word, but to live it out and share it with others. If the Holy Spirit has put someone on your heart, a neighbor, a friend, a relative, this can be an easy way to invite them into a conversation about Yeshua in a natural, approachable way. You can download today's companion devotional right from our app or our website at shalomaz.com. Thanks for being here. Let's let Yeshua have His way in us today.
Well, we're gonna finish Isaiah chapter 28 this morning, and this has been a really rich chapter. We'll reread the verses leading up that we've gone through so far, the first 20 verses, and then we transition at the end of this chapter into a couple of parables that we're going to look at. So Isaiah chapter 28, we're going to be looking at verses 21 to 29, and I've entitled today's Daily Manna, "The Master of All Nature," right? And the Master of Nature understands how to deal with your nature, with my nature. If he knows how to deal with all nature, He knows how to deal with my nature and with yours. So we read, Woe to the proud crown of Ephraim's drunks, or woe to the crown of pride of intoxicated Ephraim. Its glorious beauty is a fading flower, which is on the head of the fertile valleys of those thrashed or overcome with wine. Behold, Adonai is strong and mighty, like a hailstorm, a destructive tempest like a downpour of overflowing water. He hurls it down to earth with his hand. The proud crown of Ephraim's drunks will be trampled underfoot, or again, under feet trampled is the crown of pride, the drunkenness of Ephraim. The glorious beauty is a fading flower, a wilting flower which is upon the head of the fertile valley. Like a first ripe fig before summer, whoever sees it swallows it up while it's still in his palm. In that day, Adonai Tzevaot will be a crown of glory, a diadem of beauty to the remnant of his people. Right, so the pride that is a withering flower versus the crown of crowns, the crown that will continue to be a crown when the other is faded away. What are you going to hold to? Let the Lord is to be your crown. And he will be a diadem of beauty, or a crown of crowns to the remnant of his people. A spirit of judgment for him who sits on the judgment seat, or a spirit of mishpat, of justice, and having to do with right governance, with the way things are intended to be, who sits on the seat of justice, and strength for those turning back the battle at the gate. But these also stagger or reel from wine, or erring from wine. What wine, right? The wine of pride, the strong drink of pride that's exalting itself against God, that's not trusting in the rest that he offers, but saying, I've got this. These also reel or err because of this wine, and stagger from strong drink. The priest, the Cohen, and the prophet reel. They err. They go astray, is the idea, from strong drink. They are confused because of wine, or they are swallowed up by the wine they have swallowed. They stagger because of strong drink. They are muddled in vision. They are blurred in their vision. They're going astray in their vision. They stumble in judgment, or in rendering judgment, or in prayer. And since all the tables, speaking of the tables, speaks of the tables of sacrifice, the tables of service, the tables that you would even roll out the scrolls for teaching, all the tables, their ministry, are full of the filth of vomit, or they're full of vomit and excrement. No place is left. There's not a spot. It's just covered. The entirety of what they're doing is disgusting. Instead of God's word coming forth from them, something that is wretched and disgusting is coming forth. To whom will he teach knowledge? Or it says, who will teach knowledge? Or who will explain the message? Who will bring understanding to what is being heard? Those just weaned from milk. Those just taken from the breast. For it must be precept upon precept, precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little, right? Tzav l'tzav, tzav l'tzav, kav l'kav, kav l'kav, ze'er sham, ze'er sham. Here's a little thing, here's a little thing, right? You're giving these little instructions, but you're not bringing that. You're drunk with pride, and you think, oh, that you're going to just give these little, here's a command, there's a command, here's a measuring line, there's a measuring line, but you're not giving people the heart of God, instructing them in the ways of the Lord. Here's a little matter, there's a little matter. And since you're not bringing understanding to the message, to what they're supposed to be shemaing, to what they're supposed to be hearing, they're going to have to learn a different way. It says, verse 11, for through stammering lips and a foreign tongue he will speak to this people. Right? And here's the message that you failed to bring to the spiritual leaders of Israel, to whom he said, here is rest. Give rest to the weary. Here is repose. Here is a resting place. But they would not listen. They were not willing to listen. So the word of Adonai is to them, tzav l'tzav, tzav l'tzav, precept on precept, precept on precept. Kav lakav, line upon line, line upon line. Ze'er sham, here a little, there a little. So they walk, fall backward, and are broken, trapped, and captured. This is the result. This is, okay, I'll give them what they've been wanting. They'll come to understand. The teaching will come through stammering lips, right? They're going to get God's word through the pain of exile, ultimately. Verse 14, therefore hear the word of Adonai, you scoffers, you who rule this people who are in Jerusalem, right? And again, scoffers is kind of diametrically opposed to the faithful. This is a person who doesn't just choose the wrong way, but he mocks the right way. And we talked yesterday about that it's sort of the spiritual leaders with a practical atheism. Oh, yeah, you're going to trust the Lord. Well, you have to trust common sense. We have an alliance. Yeah, we see the Assyrians come in, but we have an alliance. We've made an alliance. At this point, we come to understand in chapter 30 that it's with Egypt. But that's not given here. And it says, and so Isaiah says, the Lord says through Isaiah, because you said we cut a covenant with death. Well, they didn't come back saying we've cut a covenant in death. He's just drawing the conclusion. You come back saying, look at the alliance we've made with Egypt. He says, no, you've cut a covenant with death. And because you said we have cut a covenant in death, we made a pact with Sheol. We made an agreement with the underworld. So when the overflowing scourge, when the overwhelming flood passes through, you say, it won't come for us. Because we've made lies our refuge. We've hidden ourselves in falsehood. We're safe. But here's what, therefore, thus says Adonai Elohim, I am laying in Zion a stone, a tested stone, a costly cornerstone, a firm foundation. Whoever trusts will not flee in haste, right? When the flood is coming, this overwhelming flood is coming, and you're saying it's not going to touch us, but here's the problem. What you're dwelling in are lies, and and you're hiding yourself in a refuge of falsehood. And when that flood comes in, it's going to sweep it away. But here's what I'm building there. This is what you've got to stand on. In Zion, in Jerusalem, in the place that is supposed to be, the word Zion means a mark, a signpost. It's supposed to be a signpost for my name and my character. I'm laying a foundation. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm building something secure. Look at me, he says. Hineni, look at me. I'm laying a foundation that is rock. It's a rock that's been tested. It's been proven, and it's precious. It's valuable. It's a cornerstone. So everything is going to be aligned based on this cornerstone. It's a foundational foundation, and the one who depends on it, who stands on it, who amens on it, right, who is reliable, putting his reliability upon the rock, won't be in the panic of anxiety when the flood comes. He's going to be firm. He says, and I will make, it's not but it's and I will make justice, I will make mishpat the measuring line, and righteousness the plumb line. Righteousness will be the level. Hail will sweep away the refuge of lies, and water will overflow the hiding place. Your covenant with death is covered, it's atoned for, or it's annulled. And your pact with Sheol will not stand. An overflowing scourge will pass through, and you will be its trampling place. It's going to overrun you. And as often as it passes through, or it will be sufficient, it will be enough as it passes through to seize you morning after morning, by day and by night passing through. It will be sheer terror to understand the message, right? You're going to be only in terror are you going to learn, are you going to get perception or understanding, discernment of what has been spoken, what is being heard. For too short is the bed to stretch on, too narrow the blanket to wrap up in, right? What you've tried to protect yourself with, what you've tried to wrap yourself in this agreement it's too little. You've been short-sheeted. You're not going to stay warm and secure in what the Lord's offered you rest, but you wanted your own rest, and so you've got a blanket that won't wrap around you. You've got a bed that you can't really rest on. You're curled up. It's too short for you to stretch out on. Now we come to today's passage. For Adonai will rise up as at Mount Perazim. He will quake with awe as at the valley of Gibeon. To do his deed, this word deed is maseh, his doing, his work. To do his deed, his work, his strange deed. That word for strange is zer, which has to do with foreigners or outsiders. So it can be strange or surprising, but it's foreign. And to do his work, and to work his work. Now, the word used for work here is the word avodah. And often we use this word for worship. Avodah is worship or service or ministry. So his ministry, He's going to serve his ministry. The ministry he will do. And then it says his extraordinary work, his ministry. Now, the word for extraordinary, it has more to do with, again, it's this word neker, which has to do with foreigners, outsiders. It often has to do with hostile powers that are outside of Israel. So he's going to do, his ministry is going to come through outsiders. It's going to come through foreigners. That's really what it's pointing to. And yes, it is extraordinary in that regard. It's alien. It's different from what you're accustomed to him doing. So here the Lord is laying a foundation in Zion, right? In the place that is supposed to be a signpost to his name in Jerusalem. And so just as the Lord has done in the past as he did, what we'll see here in a minute is breakthrough works, extraordinary works in preparing Jerusalem for his purposes back in Joshua chapter 10, in 2 Samuel chapter 5 with David. Well, he's going to do some strange, foreign, surprising things in this place again. The Lord is the same God who gave David the victories over the Philistines at Mount Perazim. Here's Perazim is mentioned, right? And he says, he will rise up as at Mount Perazim. Well, we look back at 2 Samuel chapter 5. 2 Samuel 5, when David had become king, when the Philistines, verse 17, when the Philistines heard that David was anointed king over Israel, all the Philistines marched up searching for David. When David heard about it, he went down to the stronghold. The Philistines came and they spread out in the valley of Rephaim. Then David inquired of Adonai, saying, should I go up against the Philistines? Will you give them over into my hand? And this is just a side. I love that that's what David does. He doesn't just assume, well, this is what the Lord would want me to do. He asks, is this what I should do, Lord? He doesn't just assume and trust in his own instincts or his own knowledge. His instinct is to ask the Lord. And Adonai answered David, saying, go up, for I will certainly give the Philistines over into your hand. Verse 20, so David came to Baal Perazim, right? To the Baal Perazim means the master of breakthroughs, the master of the breakthroughs of that which breaks through, but it's in a plural, Perazim. So David came to Baal Perazim, and David struck them down there. So he said, Adonai has broken through my enemies before me like the breakthrough of waters. Right? There's like a flood that washed through, that broke through his enemies. That's why he named the place Baal Perazim. Right? The master of breakthroughs, or the master who breaks through. They abandoned their idols there, so David and his men remove them, right? So he says, in the same way, for Adonai will rise up, there's going to be a breakthrough. Here he's talking about an overwhelming flood. Well, there's going to be an overwhelming flood. It came on behalf of David there at Mount Perazim, the master of breakthroughs at Baal Perazim. But now it's coming, that the breakthrough is coming at you. And then it says he will quake with awe at the valley of Gibeon to do his maaseh, to do his work. And we read about the valley of Gibeon in Joshua chapter 10. Joshua chapter 10, verse 10. Adonai threw them into confusion before Israel, defeated them with a crushing defeat at Gibeon, chasing them by the road that goes up to Beit Horon, and struck them as far as Azekah and Makkedah. Verse 11, while they were fleeing before Israel down the descent of Beit Horon, Adonai cast down great stones from heaven on them all the way to Azekah, so they died. More of them died from the hailstones than those Bnei Yisrael killed with the sword. So first of all, you have this, the Lord has already said in verse 17, I'm coming through with a flood of waters and with a storm or with hailstones. And back in verse 2, same kind of thing. And so now he's pointing back to the time he came through as like the breakthrough of waters, or he came or at Gibeon with hailstones. And of course at Gibeon also, it says, then Joshua spoke to Adonai, verse 12, on the day Adonai gave the Amorites over to the children of Israel, and said in the eyes of Israel, Joshua says, sun, stand still over Gibeon, moon over the Ajalon valley. So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped until the nation took vengeance on its enemies. Is it not written in the book of Yashar? Thus the sun halted in the middle of the sky and did not hurry to go down for about a full day. There was no day like that before it or after it, when Adonai listened to the voice of a man, for Adonai fought for Israel. In the same way that Adonai, so these extraordinary things that were done, he's now, just as he did then, he's going to do now. He will rise up to do his maaseh, to do his work, right? To do his ministry. But it's a ministry that is foreign, that is, again, using language, neker, having to do with those who are outsiders and those who are foreigners. Later in Isaiah, the Lord uses the word neker because it's usually about those who are, again, not only just foreigners, but those who are dangerous and hostile. Later in Isaiah, just a quick thing, there's a reversal about these foreign, hostile neighbors. That's in verse 3 of Isaiah 56. The Lord says, do not let the son of a necher, a ben ha-nechar, who has joined himself to Adonai say, Adonai will surely exclude me from his people. Right? Don't let the son of one who was a hostile outsider, once he's joined himself to the Lord, don't let him say, well, the Lord's going to keep me out. The Lord has now included those who were outsiders. And here the Lord is including the outsider in ministry, in avodah, for his purposes. Right? So, but this is not the way the Lord, it's an outside work, it's an alien work, it's a foreign work, God doing this in this way, whereas before he came alongside to clear Jerusalem for his name, and he worked for his own sake and on behalf of Israel, but it was for his own name. And now for the flood to be coming and the hail and the judgment to be coming to his own people is alien. It's surprising. It's a different kind of way that God is working. Verse 22 then says, and now, no more scoffing, it says. No more scoffing. Stop your scoffing. Stop your big talk. Stop your boasting. Stop making the word for scoffing again. It's the same one we saw back in verse 14. Stop going against the ways of God. Stop trusting in your own ways. This kind of, again, practical atheism where you give, in the next chapter, in chapter 29, he'll talk about this practical atheism where they give me lip service. They're close to me with their lips, but they're far from me in their hearts. So he says, stop it. Stop doing that. No more of that. Otherwise, your shackles, your chains will be chazak, strong. When he says, be strong and be bold, he uses the word chazak. The more you fight against, the more you scoff, the more you go against my ways, the harder it's going to be. Stop, he says, lest your shackles be strengthened. Isaiah says, for I have heard from Adonai Elohei Tzavaot. I have heard from Adonai, my God, the Lord of hosts, of destruction that is determined, or it's decisive. He has made the decision, and it's coming upon the whole land. I've heard this. I have shemad. So here now, the Lord, through Isaiah, is pleading with the people not to show themselves to continue to be these mockers. And it has to do with their character, this character of that is in opposition to the ways of God. That's rather than being humble and submitting to his ways and trusting in his ways and entering into the rest that he invites them into. The scoffing, the arrogance that's included in that. He says, no more of that. Please, no more. Stop now. So now he wants to get their attention. Otherwise, your chains are going to be heavier. They're going to be stronger. Chazak. Right? So the more you do this deliberate action, more you become scoffers. You're going to keep tightening to prepare, right? The only way to flee from God, from the judgment of God, is to flee toward him. The only way to escape is to run. The only hope that you have is to run toward him. Is to run either, right? We've talked about this before. The rock that into my words, right? So now the intent, you've had all this intensity of what's coming, of the judgment that's coming on Samaria, that's coming on Jerusalem and Judah. And now the tone, it's a little surprising because it shifts as with this pleading. Please listen. Please pay attention, he says. That word na means now, but it also means please. Come on. Will you pay attention and respond, heed to what I'm saying? Because there's an opportunity here. I mean, you see what's happening in Samaria. You see what's happening to the north. And your life to the south, Jerusalem is mirroring what's happening in Samaria. Are you intent, Jerusalem, on following the same path? I mean, Samaria paid the price for its overthrow. Is that what has to happen to you? And so to make that point here, the Isaiah brings two parables, kind of farming parables. And the first parable he gives here in the first three verses 24 to 26 is a parable about sowing or planting. He says, does a plowman plow the whole day to sow the seed? Or all the day, or it could be like every day to sow the seed? Does he continually break open and harrow his ground? So the emphasis here is does the plowman plow every day to sow? Does he continue to open and harrow his ground? It's the emphasis here is on the continually aspect of it. Is he just plowing and plowing and plowing? When you see the guy plowing, is that all he ever does? Is that all he's going to do? Every day for its own sake? I just love to plow. Plowing's hard work. Plowing's hard work. The harrowing, the digging of the fields. It's hard work. The plow in the ancient Near East, it was basically a metal pointed stick pulled by an ox or by a team of oxen, and it would break the ground about 3 inches or so. And so it was necessary. You would drag this harrow, you would plow it, and then you would drag a couple of logs with pieces of metal sticking out of them over the plowed ground to level and kind of smooth it out. Is he doing this every day, all the day, for its own sake? And the rhetorical answer, the answer given, it's given as a question actually in verse 25, is no. I mean, isn't he leveling its surface for another reason, right? He's not going to just keep plowing forever. There's a purpose on the other side of this work. One day he's going to stop the plowing. He's preparing the ground for fruitfulness. The plower plows in order to plant, right? The harshness of the plowing is connected to a purpose. So verse 24 says, does he continually break open and harrow his ground? Verse 25 opens with, actually, does he not, when he has leveled its surface, when he has leveled its face, the face of it, when he's leveled its surface, does he not scatter the dill and sow the cumin? Right? Doesn't he plant wheat in rows and place barley and rye on its border, and places barley and puts rye on its border, and puts rye on its boundaries? So you have this. So what you have these different kinds of seeds, and right. So he plows to loosen it. He harrows it. He levels the ground. Doesn't he do this? And he begins to go through these different kinds of seed. And so some of the seeds, some of the crops were sown by kind of broadcasting it, right? The dill and the cumin, they're kind of tossed. And the larger seeds are planted more carefully, whether it was like by seed drills that would put them down, or and in rows to keep each kind of crop separated, right? He scatters the very fine seeds of dill. He sows the cumin. The larger seeds are planted. They're set. He plants. He sets the weeds in rows. He places the barley, and then he sets a row of rye. He sets rye around its border. Perhaps it's to mark off the borders, whatever it may be. The point is that each type of seed is dealt with differently. The sowing is dealt with according to there's purposeful action. He doesn't just do it all the same. He deals with each seed according to its nature, according to its type, and according what it's going to take for it to be fruitful. He plants it all differently. There is a master plan governing all of this. This is not just random. There's a plan in place. Even for the plowman, there's a plan in place. Verse 26, well, how does he know to do this? Where did he learn to do this? It says, for his God teaches him judgment, instructing him. Literally, it opens, it says, and he will admonish him and he will admonish him. And it says toward or for mishpat, toward judgment or justice or governance, his God instructs him. The Lord has taught him there. Here, it's an interesting use of the word mishpat, justice, right? And this is particularly an example of when mishpat, justice, having to do with the way that things are dealt with between, we deal with it within the way things are dealt with our fellow men, that it has more to do with the right principles. It's an example of, it means something more than just legal justice or judgment. It's about the proper order or the governance of things. And in this context, it speaks to the creation order, both physically and spiritually, right? There are principles, in physical principles and spiritual principles in life that life depends on. And if you follow the principles, the natural order of things that God has laid out, that will lead to fruitfulness into life. So the Lord has cried out to his people to live in that way toward one another with mishpat, in the proper order, the governance, the way that he is determined for things to do spiritually, in the ways of the Spirit, in the ways of the way that we treat one another. But they don't make the connection that this leads to life versus the other ways that lead to death. And somehow when it comes to physical principles, right, when it comes to planting and harvesting, we seem to have no problem recognizing there's an order to things. If you do things correctly, they'll work correctly. Well, how do we know that? Well, the Lord designed it that way. And just as he designed creation to work that physically, he designed our spirits to work with mishpat, with justice correctly. And when we don't, it leads to death. God has put in nature, right, what appears to be man's scientific discovery. Well, yes, he's discovered, he's uncovered. He understands, we've learned about the seasons and the conditions for sowing and farm management and the rotation of crops, etc. Well, that's actually, the Creator has opened his book of creation, revealing his truth, his mishpat, his justice, his governance of all things, his dealings with all things, revealing not only nature, but revealing himself also. Because here's a God who in nature operates with purpose, and he operates with purpose in my nature and in your nature, right? When he is sowing, when he is plowing, when he's harrowing the ground, is it not with a purpose? Isn't there something he's doing here in order to sow? So the first parable here is a parable of sowing, right? The harsh activity of plowing and breaking and harrowing, it's not an end in itself. He's not like, I just love to plow. It's purposeful. It's aimed at sowing seeds that he's planning to sow. And then the second parable is one of reaping, of the gathering, of the harvesting. Each of the crops has to be gathered in a way that's appropriate to that crop, right? The wrong treatment, depending on the crop, the wrong treatment of that crop will destroy the crop. And so there's a way you deal with this crop, and there's a way you deal with that crop, and there's a way you deal with this one. Right? You can't use the same techniques for large grains as you do for small grains. So he says in verse 27, for dill is not threshed with a sledge, nor is a cartwheel rolled over cumin. These are the fine seeds. Rather, dill is beaten out with a staff, and cumin with a rod. So in harvesting, the threshing sledge was this heavy wooden platform that was kind of studded underneath with sharp stones and metal, and it was weighted on top, and it was kind of dragged back and forth over the crop. Well, this treatment would be, if you did this with the cumin and the dill, with caraway and the cumin, it's going to be destructive to it. For these small seeds, you're harvesting with a rod, with a stick. And then verse 28 basically says, and even when you're gathering, you're harvesting, when you use the appropriate method, there's still boundaries in which those methods are used. It's not incessant. He says in verse 28, bread grain is crushed, yes, but not forever, not endlessly, not on and on and on and on. Rumbling cart wheels and horses over it would only crush it to powder. It would pulverize it. Would ruin it. So you could have the correct method, but if done excessively, it wouldn't be productive. It wouldn't bring produce. It won't produce the desired result. It'll destroy. So yeah, grain has to be ground. But if you just keep going on driving the wheels of the threshing cart over it with the horses and incessantly, it's going to pulverize. It'll be useless. Right? And so what we see here is the Lord, he's expressing his understanding of the point of the way I'm dealing with the different seeds even is to bring about fruitfulness. Right? It's not intended to destroy. It's intended to bring fruitfulness. If he understands that with nature, then understand the wisdom that he is bringing to his discipline of his people, to what's necessary here now for his people, because they're in their nature, they're not responding to his calls to just, would you just do what I've asked? Would you just understand? Verse 29 says, this also these things proceed forth or come from Adonai Tsevaot. Wonderful is his counsel. Great is his wisdom, right? These are things that proceed from the Lord of hosts. This practical wisdom that everyone, we understand the way that works. Yeah, that comes from the Lord too. Wonderful is his counsel, magnificent is his, great is his wisdom. His wonderful counsel is the same language we use in Isaiah 9:6, wonderful counselor. Peleoetz, right? The miraculous planner. We talked about that, I think, sometime last week in another portion where his plans are extraordinary. They're wonderful. They're not brand new or just thought of. He knows what he's doing. The way that you deal with the grains, the way you deal with nature, it's extraordinary. What you call natural is actually miraculous. The way seeds work and the way it all works, the whole planting season, this whole cycle of nature, we're so accustomed to it, we take it for granted. It's natural, but it's miraculous. It's extraordinary. The way the Lord has planned it all out is extraordinary. And the way that he understands our nature, he understands the one who is the wonderful counselor, the extraordinary planner, has an extraordinary plan. His counsel is full of wonder. And it says, and his wisdom is mighty. His wisdom is gadol. It's great. He knows how the seeds work. He knows what we see. He knows how it all works, and he knows how we work. He understands our nature. He understands the crown of creation, those made in his likeness. And he knows that sometimes deep furrows need to be plowed, that sometimes certain needs need to be scattered and others planted. And sometimes there needs to be a crushing and a threshing and a pain, but not crushing for its own sake. Not because it's what he desires, but because it's what's necessary for a season, not just incessantly, but for a purpose to produce the crop that he intends to produce. His concern is about purifying and preparing, not about destroying. If he knows that with the seeds and with the harvest, he knows that with us. And so the call still remains, right? Stop scoffing, stop walking against trusting in him, lest you make your pain greater. The invitation is to trust in quietness, and trust is your deliverance, he says, but you wouldn't have it. Stop leaning on your own wisdom and understanding. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Because his ways, his planning, his understanding is masterful, is extraordinary, right? His wisdom is great. He knows how it works. He knows how we work. Would we respond to his call and let him just plant the seeds in us, not have to dig up hardened ground to get that seed into us? Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you again so much for joining us in worship today. May the work that the Holy Spirit has stirred in your heart today overflow from you to the lives of those you encounter. May Yeshua's love bubble forth from you to your family and your friends and your co-workers, even and especially the people who might be unkind to you. Let's be life-giving water bottles in the land that is dry and weary, where there has been no water. Please don't forget to download our Shalom AZ app on your phone or streaming device. It's the easiest way to watch services, access devotionals, and share teachings with friends and family. Just search Shalom AZ in your app store. And again, if you've been blessed by Shalom AZ Ministries but haven't yet taken that step to give, would you prayerfully consider sowing into what God is doing here? Your giving is instrumental, helping us live stream services, create devotionals, and reach people who are hungry for truth and hope. As you give, you're not only meeting needs, you are partnering with the Lord to give life and transformation to countless hearts. We're grateful that as you give to Him, you're entrusting Shalom AZ Ministries to be faithful stewards of your worship and giving. Again, the easiest way to give is through our app or online at shalomaz.com/give. You can also mail a check to our P.O. Box. And remember, please join us for Daily Manna, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Arizona time. If you can't join us live, that's okay. The food is still hot and ready for you. Together, let's be built on the richness of God's Word at work in our lives by the power of His Spirit. Thanks again for being here. Let's let Yeshua have His way in us as we go forward to serve Him wholeheartedly. Shabbat Shalom and Shavua Tov.